Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news and notes mashup video today, starting with Zhang Zhilei, who has paid tribute online to Deontay Wilder, the former WBC champion who he stopped inside 5 rounds in Saudi Arabia. So you can see here on screen, he says, "I always respect you as a man, a father and a warrior. I felt your power Saturday night, the power that can knock anyone out clean. I'm happy that we both came out of the ring healthy and safe. Go back to your family and enjoy your time. Boxing is great with the Bronze Bomber. Don't write him off just yet. Thank you to my team." And I guess for Zhang, saying don't write him off just yet, that partially goes to because if people consider Wilder as completely done and washed, then Zhang would get less credit for the win. But I think regardless, it's a good win. It was a good performance by Zhang Zhilei, who's proven he is a top contender in the heavyweight division. And different style matchups, especially against movers, might be a bit tougher for him. But against guys that are stood in front of him and he can get his shots off, he is going to be trouble for a lot of heavyweights. But Deontay Wilder's promoter for that 5 vs 5, they drafted Deontay Wilder in. Eddie Hearn says of Matchroom, and Wilder was the team captain, says that Wilder is not the same fighter. He says he's just not the same, in all honesty. I just feel his belief is not there anymore. And you've got to ask yourself, why? Is it just the time? Is it something else not right? Is he just not letting his hands go? And that's what made him one of the most feared fighters in the world. He is not the fighter he was at the moment. People can come back, but it's deep in the road. That's a good point that Hearn makes, that it's deep in the road, because 38 years old, it's very hard sort of trying to reinvent yourself at that age, especially when the physical attributes will be on the decline. And as we've seen with Deontay Wilder, just didn't want to pull the trigger in the last couple of fights, or couldn't, or wasn't able to for whatever reason. Maybe he feared what was coming back. Maybe he just wasn't able to line up the opportunities as he once could have. Hearn continues, he was world champion. He had a lot of defenses. He lit up the heavyweight division. He didn't have many wins against elite level guys, but he had some good wins and was exciting. He had some great fights with Tyson Fury, so he will be remembered. And given people have noted the fractious relationship with Hearn and Wilder, it's a pretty fair assessment. He did bring the entertainment and excitement to the sport, albeit he was very carefully managed along the way. Jarrell Big Pharmacy Miller, he's taken no time in sort of raining on Wilder's parade, saying, "Lol, dummy." And that's in response to some of the training clips that people have been bringing up after the fight. In one of them, you can see the still frame that Miller has chosen. Deontay Wilder was spinning and doing the spin move that ultimately he kind of did in the fight, and ultimately it was a bad thing. Anyway, I'll move on. But Jarrell Big Pharmacy Miller, he's always been in on Deontay Wilder. Who knows, if Wilder continues, will Jarrell Miller end up being a future opponent? I think that's a hard matchup for Wilder at this point if Miller's got any durability. And you do actually have Wilder's mother. She's been out in public saying he should retire. So USA Today, and this is via Michael Benson having reposted it, I texted him and said, "Son, we're having a party for you. You gave us the best boxing in the USA when boxing was dead. You've gotten older, you've ran your course in your journey. It's time to celebrate. Enjoy your life now. Teach other young men how to become a champion." So Wilder's mother imploring him to hang it up and maybe contribute back to the sport. So we'll have to see what Wilder does. Will he want to go out with 2 losses where he just really didn't fire too many shots and didn't really do too much? Poor performances overall, but that's ultimately his call. In terms of one of the big winners from the night, the 5-on-5, Daniel Dubois reinvigorating his career with a win over Filip Hrgović, or should I say, having back-to-back wins which have reinvigorated his career, with also the win over Miller having done helped with that as well. So boxing scene has published the story with the IBF to decide whether Joshua Dubois will be a championship fight. So I'll let you go on to read this, but they've Daryl Peoples of the IBF, and he does go on to say that he doesn't want to speculate about what's going to happen, because Usyk's team have asked it to be undisputed, the IBF to be on the line in the December rematch with Tyson Fury, but they have to work through a process, and he doesn't want to basically get ahead of that. But effectively, he does tell Boxing Scene that right now, with the mandatory is Dubois, so he does have the option, or that should be what is the next fight, because it is due to be held. But given Frank Warren is the promoter of both Tyson Fury and Daniel Dubois, perhaps they will make a dispensation, because what we do have and what we do know is, and this has been spoken to UK media and others by Frank Warren, that Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois are now in talks. So if they're in talks, they may make that for the interim belt, which Daniel Dubois won against Filip Hrgović. So potentially there could be a deal that allows all 4 belts to be on the line for the undisputed rematch, and Dubois faces Anthony Joshua at Wembley. I mean, I would think that Daniel Dubois will follow what his promoter says. Obviously, his promoter has put him in these positions where he's basically come back from the dead. Not so long ago, he's had a world title shot. He was down. He's had a couple of big wins in Saudi Arabia, and now he is riding high. And he could potentially be in with Anthony Joshua in a mega fight at Wembley. Doesn't really matter if the IBF strap is on the line. I mean, some will say yes, some will say just for the process, and if the IBF is to respect the way that it used to run, and basically, it was the one that enforced its mandatories, that it should give Dubois the shot with the title being on the line, that it should strip Alexander Usyk and make sure that it's online for that fight. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of think we're going to get, if we get either of the fights, we get the undisputed rematch with or without the belt, and you get Dubois and Joshua. At the end of the day, it's win-win. If the belt's there or not, I don't care. How about you? Moving on. Michael Hunter, who is set to face Cassius Chaney this week on a Don King card. He has his eyes on an Alexander Usyk rematch. So I'll be doing a separate video on that fight specifically. This is covering the Usyk comments in this one. Also, Alan Babich and Johnny Fish at that launch event. I will also do a separate video discussing that fight. It was tabbed a couple of weeks ago, but I was away at the time. Actually, I'm still away, but I've got more access to a computer this week. Anyway, in terms of Michael Hunter, who's looking to basically reinvigorate his own career after a couple of years kind of in the wilderness, not really up to much. He says, I would love to fight Usyk again. I didn't have a good showing at that point. I had a little malfunction outside of the ring. If you look at the tail of the tape for that fight, you'll see that I was underweight the night of the fight compared to the weigh-in, and he had hydrated 10 to 12 pounds. So there were a lot of mistakes that happened outside of the ring. That's where the fight is really won, doing the work outside of the ring and doing your due diligence there. So Usyk is one of the best at obviously preparing for fights. Hunter, if he's saying that he underperformed there and he's had some out-of-the-ring issues, whether it's promotional or management, things just really haven't clocked for him in recent years. Had an exhibition not so long ago, was it out in Uzbekistan, which he lost, and now he's turned up on a Don King card. Anyway, I'll just go down a little bit. Discipline. He's fast, but he's not that fast. He doesn't really hit hard, but it's respectable. He doesn't really do anything great other than stay disciplined, and he stays true to himself. He has good movement. He has very little ego when it comes to that. So I think you have to have a lot of discipline to do that. A lot of fights that are lost are usually because of your ego. One person trying to fight someone that's faster, trying to be faster than someone that's faster than them. We have a rule of law in boxing that if you fight the boxers and box the fighters. So he's got to get past Chaney. He wants that rematch with Usyk. Will he get it? Well, I kind of think he's kind of pretty far down the queue. I mean, whoever wins the fight between Dubois and Joshua, should that fight be made, even if Dubois sits, the IBF mandatory is next for Usyk after an undisputed rematch. And who's to say Usyk continues in the sport after the undisputed rematch, win, lose or draw? Vladislav Sirenko, the very oft-seen Ukrainian heavyweight, has continued his unbeaten run. So he's now, 21-0, 22-0. He's fought Keith Barr. He's got a decision. This was actually stateside in the United States. But let's face it, not a great opponent for this stage of his career. Barr was 15 losses heading into that fight. But I guess after being out for so long, being so inactive, a win is a win and is a win. It's going to get him back on the escalator, and hopefully he's going to fight, a little bit more regularly now. And Emanuel Odiase, the German heavyweight, who's a Anthony Joshua signed prospect, he will be back in action 22nd of June, and he's actually one to watch. He's a guy that sparred Joshua, Wilder, Usyk. He's kind of been in with a who's who, 6'6". He's got a room to sort of grow and fill out and develop his skills. But he's one to watch for down the line. Right now, they just need to bring him along slowly. But remember the name, Emanuel Odiase. Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.